I'm just gonna say it. I think Apple might be finally starting to course correct. After years of, frankly, neglecting their hardware and their software, it seems like someone shook some sense into Tim Cook and the marketing and software departments and just said, hey, we gotta fix this. For the last couple of years, Apple has seemed to be basically on autopilot. When they would release a new product, it felt like it was designed more by a spreadsheet than a team of designers. The iPad Air, for example, has been a completely uninspired mess of cobbled together and neutered features designed to not interfere too much with the Pro sales. That's about all that product serves. And don't get me started on the iPhone 16e, because I will. I'll go into a whole other video on that thing. But what these new software updates represent is Apple finally waking up to the fact that if they want to maintain their brand image, they need to do something bold. And look, I'm not saying that every problem is solved, because it very much isn't. But what we have here is a fresh outlook on what Apple software could be. But even more than that, one of the things that really stood out to me at WWDC this year was what wasn't there. They didn't really focus on AI. Last year's WWDC was all about AI, but this year's DubDub unquestionably focused predominantly on human-designed, handcrafted features, and I think that is absolutely for the best. Liquid glass is their new design aesthetic, and I am really on board with this. I know a lot of people have complained about various aspects, like especially the readability of it, with the new notifications and control center being a little bit hard to read. But I do think it's worth keeping in mind that these are extremely early beta versions, and really all that needs to happen is Apple can just turn up the blur effect. I mean, take a look at iOS 26 versus iOS 18. The interface isn't all that different, but the background blur is a lot less on the new version. All they have to do is turn it up and it'll kind of fix the problem. I really do think that all of the issues with the new liquid glass design can be fixed by just playing with opacity a little bit. If we tone it down just a bit, it'll be a lot more usable. I really wouldn't get too worked up about it. What I would get worked up about is the fact that this is the biggest year-over-year change that we've seen since iOS 7 came out in 2013. And the world of tech is a completely different place than it was 12 years ago. And I think it's really hard to understate how big a deal it is to make a move this significant in the current landscape. But I'm gonna try to break it down for you right after a word from today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Plod and their new Plod Note and Note Pin. They record and transcribe audio to help you take notes, and I've been using them since I worked with them earlier this year. And I've loved having an independent note-taking device that doesn't interrupt phone calls or require me to unlock my phone if I need to record a quick meeting. Just press record and Note will take everything down. Recordings are on device, so no data is shared until you transfer it to your phone and analyze it with Plod's secure AI. From there, you can get meeting summaries, action lists, and mind maps tailored for professionals. Plod can even distinguish each speaker to help you keep track. And now Plod AI is available on the web as well, giving you even more ways to interact with your meetings and notes. And across all platforms, you can use Ask AI to find snippets in your audio and make additional recommendations based on what was said. When you combine all of these features, Plod has been really useful. I've been using it in my weekly meetings with my manager to keep track of what is said. That way I can focus on the meeting while knowing that Plod is keeping track of the details. If I forget something that was said, I can easily use Ask AI instead of messaging my manager and having him tell me again. It can come up with to-do lists, and I can even go back to listen to specific segments of the conversation with speaker labels. And on web, I can even edit the audio so that I can listen to a streamlined transcript. To learn more about Plod Note and Note Pin, check out the link in the description below. New users enjoy a free Pro membership or unlimited membership for a week. And now let's get back to the video. So first of all, Liquid Glass is a very technically impressive new UI. It kind of reminds me of Windows Vista or Windows 7 back in the day, except without the caveats that those had, including that they were too graphically advanced to run on most computers at the time. We're now existing in a landscape where the hardware can actually run UIs that have this much complexity without having an issue. But more than that, this demonstrates that Apple still has the talent and the courage to make a bold update as a mature company. In 2013, Apple, and specifically the iPhone, was a burgeoning industry. It wasn't established and they were moving really quickly to gain market share. That is no longer the case. A lot of these large tech companies are fully entrenched. They are the establishment, not the disruptor anymore. And so for a company as large as Apple to make a move this bold, that's a big risk. And Apple for the last couple of years has been extremely risk averse. That iPad I mentioned earlier is just one example of many. But I think it's the response to this new design that has me the most excited, because for the first time in a while, there's an actual discourse. I've seen people saying, I hate this new liquid glass. It looks terrible, it looks cheap, it looks tacky. And I've seen other people saying it's impressive, beautiful, and gorgeous. I haven't seen people disagreeing like that since the days of the butterfly keyboard and the touch bar. In fact, speaking of touch bar, I was quite amused to find out that the liquid glass design aesthetic actually applies to the touch bar as well. I guess since there's Apple Silicon Macs that have it, Apple thought, hey, we gotta redesign it, even though it's very buggy. Another thing that really stood out to me from this year's WWDC was the lack of focus on AI. If you go and watch Google I/O, it was AI, AI, AI.
AI, 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 Gemini, 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 artificial Pokemon intelligence.
I think people are starting to get very, very tired of AI being shoved in their faces. And what Apple did in this year's WWDC is something that I've been hoping for a really long time. And that is, it was less about AI forward and more about AI backward. What do I mean by that? Well, for the past couple of years, most of the headline-grabbing AI functions have been large language models, image generators, video generators, things where AI is very much integral, if not the only aspect of the product. But what Apple announced this year was totally different. Most of the new AI features they talked about are back-end things built into existing functionality. For example, the new Apple Music audio mixing. That is using AI, but they're not saying, oh guys, you gotta check out the new AI Apple Music. It's gonna create a new beat out of the songs that you like. Like, no. Another example is the Workout Buddy feature. Now, personally, I think this is cringe, and I will never ever turn it on.
You're crushing it, closing that move ring for 6 straight days.
But at the very least, what it represents is that AI is now being manifested as an assistant, something to help out in the background without necessarily screaming and announcing its presence. And that's where I think AI is most useful. Yeah, sure, you can ask ChatGPT to help you code or write an essay or generate a picture, but applications like today's video sponsor, Plod, where it's mainly being employed to help with note-taking, bullet points, extracting information from meetings and finding answers, that's a lot more useful. Now, in the past, Apple has been pretty much undeniably a leader in pushing the industry in a certain direction. And my hope is that while they were admittedly late on AI, they can use this to kind of steer the conversation towards AI as a supporting role rather than the main character. I mean, this year's main event, Liquid Glass, has nothing to do with AI whatsoever. And I think that that's why people are really excited. It's a handcrafted feature made by an actual team of designers, not just people wrangling a large language model. Take a look at the new iMessage backgrounds, for example. Apple added a bunch of presets here. They have these hand-built backgrounds that are animated and they look absolutely stunning. Or you could use Image Playground to make a really ugly picture and make that your background. So yeah, AI is shoehorned in there a little bit, but the main focus is those handcrafted, purpose-built backgrounds, and they look fantastic. So it seems like Apple is finally listening to its customers. We have been saying we don't really want AI to take over the iPhone. I said last year that Apple Intelligence was bringing down the quality experience of iOS, and Apple seems to be listening to that by focusing on what they do best, which is building great purpose-built software. And it certainly feels like for the last couple of years, they've been playing it safe in almost all aspects. And sure, redesigning iOS in such a major way is sure to cause a backlash. There's definitely people that won't like it. But that's kind of what has given Apple this prestigious reputation in the first place. It was Apple that got rid of the floppy disk on the original iMac. It was Apple that got rid of the DVD drive on the MacBook Air. USB-C on the MacBook Pros was mocked endlessly for years, and now everybody wants USB-C on everything because it's the right way to go. And it was Apple that got rid of the headphone jack and introduced AirPods.
Courage.
And at the time, a lot of people said, screw you, I want my wired earbuds, I'm not paying for your dumb AirPods. Why don't we go ahead and check in on those people now? I wonder how many of them own a pair of AirPods right now. I would wager a lot. So sometimes Apple forces a change, people get upset, they stick with it, and after a couple of years, they don't even remember why they were mad. Now, I'm not trying to say that iOS 26 is as big a change as USB-C or AirPods or removing the DVD drive, but it's an example to show that when Apple sticks to it, they can affect change over a long period of time. So the big question now is, where do we go from here? Apple has shown that they're willing to make a bold move that they haven't made in a really long time, frankly. And I applaud them for it. But there are a couple of things that need to happen as well. Number one, the stability. This, more than ever, is a crucial factor because you're already asking people to accept a different looking user interface, and that's a tough pill for some people to swallow. But if you're then also expecting them to deal with a ton of bugs and glitches on launch day, well, that's gonna make it a very uphill battle. And I don't think Apple will learn the right lesson from that. They'll probably take away, less risk, not more. But if they pull it off and people start really liking this change, I hope that it'll teach Apple to take more risks, to push for bigger leaps, because frankly, complacency is not gonna end well for them. That's what got BlackBerry and Hewlett-Packard in a bunch of trouble 10, 20 years ago. So for Apple to maintain their lead in the sector, they absolutely need to innovate. The next big test is gonna be the iPhone. When that comes out later this year, it's another expected redesign and another opportunity for Apple to prove that they're listening, that they are willing to make a bold move, change the game, and not just make the camera bump a little bit bigger and paint it a different color. But I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts on this topic because I've been sitting here playing around with macOS, iPadOS, and iOS for a couple of days now and really having a good time. Maybe I'm high on my own supply and I'm just really enjoying this something new for once. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. I also think it might be time to revisit the iPad now that we finally have tiled window support. I can't believe I forgot to mention that until now. I think this needs an entire video for iPadOS 26. Let me know if you agree in the comments below. If a bunch of you guys want me to talk about it, I think it is probably worth doing. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.